Okay, so till our guest speakers joins in, so let us know in the comments on what do you think about how our graduates' performance in the industry or in Sri Lankan economy, to be exact. So especially from people from age 25 to 29, what is your perspective and all? Let us know in the comments so that we can take all of this and into account, and we'll try to address all these issues and concerns definitely. Hello,
Hi.
Lavindu.
Hi, good evening. Yeah.
Good evening. Okay, right. So to start on today's AdvoChats, I welcome you all today, this evening. And today we are going to discuss on the topic, employability prospects for graduates in Sri Lanka. I'm Tirani.A and
I'm Lavindu
we
Sachintha.
have our guest speaker.
Yes, I'm Lavindu Sachintha here.
Right. So to start on this topic, first and foremost, we have to identify that graduates are the future workforce of any country, and their employability is critical for the growth and development of the economy. In Sri Lanka, the unemployment rate among graduates is a significant concern, and it is essential to understand the factors that affect their employability and identify solutions to address the issues. So there is a need to address the outcomes of slack in the labor market. With high rates of unemployment and a surplus of job seekers, Sri Lankan graduates are facing significant challenges in finding employment opportunities. And also in the private sector, we see freezing of hiring processes and even terminations of existing jobs, leaving many individuals struggling to make end goals. So this phenomenon has far-reaching consequences, and not only for individuals and families, but also for the overall economic growth and stability of the country. So to give a brief outlook on the numbers of our unemployment rate. So in the first quarter in 2022, the unemployment rate was around 4.3%. And later on, in the third quarter of 2022, it rose to 5%. And this is with the estimated labor force participation rate of 49%. Furthermore, in 2022, in the third quarter to be exact, economically active population the total was around 8.4. And the male working force was around 5.5 million. And concerning value is that the females were around 2.8 million. So you see the gap. We have 2.8 million and 5.5 million. It's an evident gender disparity we see here. And now next one, the most concerning one. It is to address the economically inactive population. So in the third quarter of 2022, the total is 8.7 million. This is much larger than the active population, economically active population. So when looking at the genders, the males, the inactive ones are actually like 2.3 million. And the most concerning is that for females, it's 6.4 million. So over here, these are inactive population, economically inactive population, people who don't work. And this is critical, and we need to address these kind of things. Now, since we're talking about graduates, we try to look on people who are aged from 25 to 29, and the statistic says that total unemployment rate during those ages is around 17.7%. And for males, it is 11%, and for females, it is 13%. Yet again, we see a big change, a big level from these two genders and in the economy. So, Lavindu, I'd ask you this, famous question: is the solution to Sri Lanka's graduate unemployment problem as simple as just creating more jobs, or do we need to think outside the box?
Yeah, Tirani. So thank you very much to having me for these AdvoChats. So it's a great pleasure to have a discussion with you all. So look, uh, when we talk about the unemployment rates and then the unemployment in general in Sri Lanka, we are really concerned about what the graduates are actually facing of with all the hullabaloo's happening in the country. But when you look at there are certain factors that you really can look into in terms of unemployment. So when, if I say if I mention few of these, one would be the education system and the curriculums. So this does not sometimes match with what the industry is requesting. And then there are economic
Indeed.
factors, what the graduates are looking at and what they are getting at. And then you can look into the social factors, which really plays a critical role. And also, most importantly, the skill sets and the training opportunities that they get when they are graduated. So those, I think, can be certain factors that really plays a vital role in defining the graduate employability. And then you know, several other things which comes in line with that. There are individual perceptions of getting a job. So some graduates are really concerned that we should get a white collar job when we graduate.
Yeah.
But in that case, there are certain industries that you don't get white collar jobs, where actually you can go and work in the field and earn much higher than that, right?
Indeed.
So those are certain individual perceptions, and sometimes as peers you have certain perceptions of about your employability, and there is a current trend that people want to leave the country for different reasons. So we can look into different aspects in terms of graduate employability, I guess.
Okay. So what we can do is now we'll just address the challenges one by one.
Yeah.
Right. So the first one, the most evident one, is that we lack job opportunities in the economy. So what is your opinion on it?
Yeah, when you look at the unemployment rates, what we see is there is a trend from the Sri Lankan companies and then the other multinational organizations that there is a freezing of employment opportunities due to the high operational costs, and then with all the taxes that the organizations have to live up with. And then there are certain terminations going on when you look at the multinational organizations, especially in the IT sector. So obviously, when you passed out, if I look at from 2020, mid of 2022 up until now, there is gradual shrink of the employability, and then there are certain less attraction towards certain industries, right? So, service organizations and then agriculture and then industry-based organizations, they have shrink their operation sometimes. In some cases, actually, there is a bloom also. However, there are certain problems that they face about lack of job opportunities.
Right. So I think the bloom that you mentioned is definitely the service sector, which according to the 2022 third quarter employment rates and all, so more than 47% of employees work for the service sector. So that definitely is the bloom, I'm pretty sure that you mentioned. And then next, what's interesting is that the agriculture counts more than 26%. And industry is actually less than agriculture, which accounts to around 25%. So over here, it's very interesting how we tend to, go to service sector more than agriculture, despite we having 26%. 25%. There's big changes. So is it because, is it when it comes to these lack of opportunities, is it actually that Sri Lankan graduates face a skills mismatch, or are they just picky when it comes to these job opportunities? What's your opinion
Yeah.
on this?
So yeah, I see in some examples that people are underemployed, I would say, right? So they come up with a different skill set, but they work for another organization since sometimes for personal reasons, for personal interests, but in most cases, when there is an opening, you try to grab it, because what I told, there is a very shrink of the job market, right? And then I would say, when you talk on skills, there are certain jobs that you require technical skills, right? To get a civil engineer and maybe a software engineer, you need a certain skill set. When you graduate, you need to have that to actually have a good employability. But then there are certain jobs that you can actually gain skills while you are doing the job. So on the job trainings can be done in marketing, HR, and then communication sector, then FMCG. You can gradually build your skills while doing this. So in terms of skill set, you can like segregate these two things. But then again, graduates, it depends on the sectors, I would say now. In terms of agriculture graduates, since I'm an agriculture graduate, the span that they are having is much larger than some other graduate, maybe an arts graduate or someone with a management degree. So I see some agriculture graduates working in private banks, and some are working in the government sector, and there are very good entrepreneurs in that case. So, and there is also
Makes sense.
yeah, and there is also a trend that it does not match the university curricula with what they actually look. It's a very definitive experience for most of the graduates. When they come, what they possess does not match. But then again, that depends on whether you can build this skill while you are doing the job, whether you really require that skill with the start, right? So
Indeed. So my opinion on this is that, so I mean, for people, to graduates to tend to, focus on the service sector, perhaps, I think it's that, we have the lack of opportunities, that's one. And maybe because it provides better experiences and outcomes than the other sectors, because we don't have much opportunities to, balance the competition between the sectors.
yeah.
So it is quite sad on how, you're learning something in the university and then you have to choose another path that, that's unexpected path, that nothing planned on.
Yeah.
And linking to what you said, most of the graduates, since we don't have, the right path to follow in Sri Lanka, we tend to, move out of the country.
Yeah.
So now, the next one that is often spoken of about the gender disparities in the economy, the jobs and all. So is the Sri Lankan job market giving female graduates a fair shake? Or are we actually stuck in the 19th century when it comes to gender equality?
Yeah, with what yes, that's a very interesting question when you look at the gender disparities. You spoke with the stats at the beginning of the program, so we saw how much gap is there in terms of employment rates, right? Why that is a problem. So even now, I'm a fresh graduate, and then I see from even our badges how girls are getting employed and how the boys are getting employed. So it's about when you get 10 boys, I find only 1 or 2 girls getting a job at the right. So it's a very drastic gap. But then again, it depends on what sector you are working in, right? There are certain sectors that female graduates are very good at. So certain industries, let's say in apparel industry, female and graduates, they are most welcome to do merchandising, and then because organizations believe that they have a good communication skill to work with, maybe and vice versa. There are certain organizations that they believe getting a female graduate is a hassle for them. They can't stay.
Yes.
They can't stay for long hours, and then they may be required to give a transport, and then it's an added burden on them, added cost. But yeah.
What you're saying is that basically the decrease the gender disparities is because we have this unfavorable work environment in these sectors.
Yeah.
Or maybe actually because of in the government sectors, basically, I think it's quite evident where it's, unfavorable. We hear stories here and there. I'm not going to mention all of this. Here, if you're looking about the statistics, in 2021, the female unemployment rate actually declined to 8%. But it is still more than male unemployment rate because it is around 4%. So like double the time, but it declined. In 2022, in the third quarter, it actually decreased even more. So the male working force is around, unemployment rate is around 4.2. And the female one is actually 6.4. So from 8%, it actually decreased to 6.4, which is something, a good thing that we have, achieved over the years. But yes, it is interesting.
Yeah.
And also, I think one point is that they are interested in entrepreneurship, most of the females. What are your thoughts on it?
Actually, that's what even came to my mind, because there is a trend that, when you look at in the apparel sector, since I have some experience in that too, they're really struggling to sometimes find female. I'm not talking about graduates in terms of in general, right? Because the labor force, most of the girls are looking at whether they can start their own business. Some are interested in starting little shops in their own backyard, and then try to build a small chain of businesses. So this is emerging in Sri Lanka, doing what your own, so you can have your own plans, and then you can plan your life. So it is trending. So maybe we don't have a measure to count that particular segment, whether we can tag them as entrepreneurs. Are we getting them into our numbers? So are we having a very clear look whether female graduates are employed or not? So there is also that concern comes to my mind.
So back to the question, right? Yeah. That comes to my mind. So are Sri Lankan graduates just not entrepreneurial enough? Or is the system that stacked against them when it comes to starting their own businesses?
Obviously, yeah, there are very, as our country, we know that there are a lot of regulations, and you have to wait in long queues and long days in lot of offices, not in one place, right? You sometimes have to register a business, you have to go to several other places, from DS secretary to other government organizations. So it's a hassle sometimes to make their own way, and that's what, sometimes we don't have the control over certain things. So
Yes, but is it also that we have like inadequate career guidance and
Hmm.
counseling onto this graduate level? So are Sri Lankan universities basically providing job ready graduates, or are this just, churning out graduates who are expert at avoiding the job market if they're going to be entrepreneurs?
Yeah,
So what do
obviously.
you think?
Yeah, career guidance is a very trending subject, I would say, because back in the days when we entered the university, this particular aspect was not in the discussion. But now it
Yeah.
has actually trended, and most of the universities, the student organizations, and so other private organizations, they want to conduct career fairs. They want to have a career guidance unit. They want companies to come to their organization to and institutes to get engaged with the students to show some skill set. But I also see that what they actually give is not catered. That there is
Okay.
also that, because we have very established career fairs. I'm not going to mention what are they. In Sri Lanka, when you say a career fair, there are certain taglines that you should go to this place.
Mhm.
One is happening very
Yeah.
close by. But then again, there are certain sectors now in terms of engineering, IT sector. Organizations tend to
Okay.
visit the institutes, pass out graduates, they take as interns and maybe giving a good package, and then they are absorbed. And then there are certain other sectors that a graduate have to go behind and find a job. So the career guiders need to have an awareness how they should direct the graduates in what field. You know, maybe the timeline. Sometimes they keep the career guidance up until the final year, final semester. No, actually, it should start from the second year, second semester, where they can actually build a momentum, right? A transformative
Exactly.
connection should be there.
So doesn't this mean that these graduates need connections, right?
Mm.
So does that mean are Sri Lankan graduates missing out on opportunities because they don't have the right connections? Or is it actually that it's just inconvenience that, carrying on with these connections, or, whether it's an excuse for not putting in the hard work? What's going on?
Hmm. It's a very interesting questions. It's sometimes there are cases that you have to put yards on to build
Yeah.
connections, right? And then there are cases that with what you have developed on the connections would come. So uh, I would say both organizations, both higher educational institutes, and then the graduates themselves need to merge them, right? If they don't
Mm-hmm.
merge, this synergy would not come. So there is that gap always. So that's what
Indeed.
I'm trying to make. So certain people, they find jobs because they have built connections throughout their undergraduate life. So whenever they need to go to a certain uh, job, their dream job maybe, so they build it gradually, and then some people need guidance. Okay, if you follow this path, you can gradually go to your dream job. So that's what I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
uh, both the institutions, and then as an individual, you need to have a merging. And then if we merge that gap, actually Sri Lankan graduates, we know that our literacy rates are high. Our graduates are very good both in government and private education systems. We are producing quality graduates, but we also I also like to mention one thing. with the global trends, even our graduates are very good at. If I talk on lifestyle sector, since I studied in that area also, they are very keen to hire our graduates because they have maybe sometimes they miss the skills, but then they have the desire and then they have the mental toughness to work in those sectors. Determination, yeah.
So my opinion on this is that, sure, like you addressed, that definitely we have to put hard work, and also we need connections. So likewise, you said, like, what I see is that there should be a reform in the education system. So for that to merge means that it's another subject, right? It's another opportunity, and it should be reformed in the education system. So what are your opinions on this?
Yeah, so we saw in 2014, I think, in our A-level system, there was a new stream added up as technological stream, right? We only had 4 previously. And with that, actually, it's a very good addition to the Sri Lankan education system, because most people who have followed still in Sri Lanka, most of the A-level students are following art stream. But then with that particular addition, people who were intended to do arts sort of moved to technological stream, since they believe, okay, we can have a good employment opportunities from there. So likewise, we need to maybe give another stream, or maybe we can add some value addition to Sri Lankan university systems, where actually students know, okay, when I graduate, there is this particular job, there is this particular entrepreneurship avenue that I can work on. So I still see in some universities and higher education institutes that plan is not given to students. Maybe it is given as a written document, but not in practice, right? So the first year, second year students are sort of here and there where they can really go. And then in terms of school education, why in Sri Lanka, why we have tuition classes? Because if I like ask from you, Tirani, why would we have tuition classes in Sri Lanka?
So, I don't know. It's the obvious thing. It's just that the teachers or the education system itself, it's not up to standard.
Yeah.
Right? So the exam questions are getting harder and harder because they're made by university lecturers and all.
Yeah.
But what we see is that the facilities to the teachers and all that, it's insufficient for them to, grow from one level to another. So that is something that's very evident. We have a lot of stories that's, we hear a lot of. And also one point to mention is that now, after the pandemic, I think there wasn't enough recovering for the lost learning hours due to the pandemic. So what I suggest is that these school supervisions and all, there should be more management. It's like there's more improvement into the school management, like a proper updated curriculum into this, and then slowly progress through that. So another solution that I'd say is to have with graduates, basically, to have an industry academia collaboration. So if you're doing something, towards the service sector, we can have industries to, merge with them and, have connections with the graduates and, scout them. Perhaps, there could be a very talented coder in one of those universities, and definitely one of these industries would love to take them.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on it?
Actually, so when we talk about industry academic collaborations, we can talk on MOUs, right? So
Right.
when students are graduated, maybe even in their undergraduate life, to have internships. Okay, let our organization give you 5 internships per year to these particular graduates with this set of skills. So maybe when you pass out, we will provide you employment opportunities with what you will offer us. So those MOEs would really help in long run. Not maybe to homogenize every university. Okay, people are coming from this particular university. No, not in that manner, but actually to sort of give an assurance to students. Okay, if I perform well, there is a path that I can go for. So
Yes.
MOUs are very important in this case, and then maybe professional get-togethers with industry experts,
Yeah.
right? So they come and speak with graduates and fresh graduates. Okay, what kind of things that you can give to my organization? So those
Indeed.
get professional get-togethers would really work in that case.
Yes. So another solution I'd suggest is to, provide vocational training
Mm.
so that they can enhance their skills, soft skills, and all that. So we can increase our communication level, our linguistic skills as well on the go. So these, I think, are very important. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, actually. So skill sets, I would say that's what I mentioned mentioned earlier. There are technical
Mhm.
jobs that you really require.
Yeah.
When you passed out instantly, you need that skill set. So most of the Sri Lankan universities now practice internship programs, and then other sort of 2 to 3 months on-site trainings given. I'm not talking about medicine, or because that's a mandatory requirement for them. But other sectors, they need to have an understanding. Okay, how can this industry experience be given in the most efficient way? Because maybe in some organization, people go and then just sit there and spend for 8 hours only hearing things. But you have to in general, an internship should go actually for 3 months, because it takes about 1 month to understand the organization and the operation, right? So
Indeed,
at least
indeed, indeed.
for 3 months that should go.
So does that mean that we have to update the academic curriculum matching to the industry and job specific requirements? I think that itself is worthwhile. I have to take notes basically, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, if we are taking to agriculture, over here we see that we lack opportunities though. So on here, it's best if the university can actually merge with international institutions if the opportunities are there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, in terms of, if I, there is an alarming finding in agriculture sector, because uh, most in terms of Sri Lankan perspective, most of the youth don't want to do agriculture as a practice, and people, we find that going to field jobs, they find rapi in Sinhala we say kattat kana. So it's a real hassle for them. So people don't want, and uh, they are moving away from this. So it's a threat to the country. It's a threat to the country, because we've been sort of given the perception that you should do a white collar job always. No, it's not. You have to go to the field, you have to work with farmers, you have to do the ground level things. Even in industries, certain other industries, you have to do the ground level work. That's where you get the real exposure, and then that's where when you go to a higher position, you will understand the real problems and real scenarios of the operation of the industry, right? So curriculums should also address this perception of Sri Lankan graduates, that graduates, it's not a privilege always. Nowadays, having a degree is not a privilege. Maybe in early 1980s and early 1990s, a graduate is it's a very privilege to have a degree, a first degree. Right now, it's not. There are a lot of graduates. Maybe you have to have specific skill sets to get into an organization. So in terms of that, curricular matching is very important. So I see a lot of higher education institutes, they have a continuous dialogue with their past graduates. Okay, how can we develop our curriculum, right? So sometimes they take off any repetitions they have in their courses also. And
right.
Yeah.
So, go on, you can.
Yeah, all good. Let's go ahead.
So, when we're talking about the agricultural side, since we lack opportunities, so one advice we could say is that, go abroad and then return, right? And then start entrepreneurship and develop that side in Sri Lanka, introduce it to Sri Lanka. And basically, the advice is that we could have some, self-employment opportunities, basically give some projects to our graduates, right? Maybe, if this is the path that you wish to learn, you can, these are the project ideas where you learn outside, you go do the job and come back and try to do this stuff in Sri Lanka. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, when we look at going out of the country, what the latest trend is to go for good, not to return. Right? That's what's happening right now. When I see my Facebook profile every day, I find 2 to 3 of my, maybe not friends, maybe my seniors, they're going for good. They're not coming back because it's a very, very difficult trend to sort of return back. But then again, what you mentioned is very important, because let's say you go to a country and then learn something, earn a good pocket money, saving, and then come here and invest. It's a very progressive thing which should come from government level. Okay, maybe not with the restriction, with the open access. You go with your money, and then always you are welcome to invest here. But
perhaps there should be incentives, right, by the government sector, maybe some tax credits or something like that.
Actually, yes.
It works.
It works. Why it does not work is that young graduates don't have a faith on government, what they will do, what will happen to our money. So that's the problem nowadays. Maybe in near future we don't know what will happen, but it's a very good progressive trend that can be encouraged while you are being an undergraduate. If people are given, because why would people migrate? Is that they are not happy with what they the living standards, right? I would say. So
one thing I picked out from what you said, right, is that we lack capital to start something, to be an entrepreneur, basically. So that means we have some barriers to entry into this job market, or to the market, basically. So one thing I can say is that there's discrimination, right? There could be discrimination. Entrepreneurs in the startup, graduates basically, they have lack of access to capital, and also again limited opportunities. And surprisingly, it's the problem with age also. So sometimes starting at a small age, you're freshly graduated, lack experience, it's going to be a downhill if you start all of a sudden without getting, the bare minimum of experience in the industry. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, discrimination. So discrimination happens with the gender, with the salary sometimes, because with the gender, I have known that people pay less for females sometimes males, they in certain cases they pay more. And then in terms of entrepreneurs, obviously they have the perception and mindset to be good entrepreneurs, but they don't have the money to invest. So not everyone has the luxury to get it from parents or friends, right? So banks and financial institutions need to give priority. If a graduate comes with a proposal to the bank, so maybe they will not have mortgages or other things to show up. Okay, I will give this thing, give me the loan. But maybe if we can give an incentive base, some kind of a credit facility with an assurance that if you return this kind of return on investment to the government or to the bank, we would give this, right? So those policy changes need to be there. And then obviously when you talk about age, that's a very old question from even my parents. They speak in 1980s when they joined Sri Lankan Airlines. There is if you pass 25, you are not good to be employed. You know, even if you are a graduate. So, and then there are some organizations, they don't hire management trainees if you pass this particular age. Maybe that guy have a very good skill set, and then but simply because of the age, they miss out on that. So I think those policy changes should come with industry discussion and with the practice actually in certain organizations.
So right, so there's, when you're talking about age, there is indeed an increased trend of the aging population in Sri Lanka as well, right? Now that the youngsters are moving out as well, we have the aging population left to work in this economy. So there's an issue whether we can actually fill this gap by placing a proper system to maybe, to absorb these energetic graduates to the market. So what I feel is that to address this gap, it is necessary to focus, as you said, right, to create a system that can effectively get all these graduates to one place, to to this job market.
Yeah.
So one solution on that is that we can establish a partnership between universities and the private sector to provide opportunities. So for internships, apprenticeships, signing MOUs like you mentioned before, and also job placements for young graduates. So what are the solutions that you come up with? Any other ones that you have in mind?
Yeah, there are different things that actually which I see to increase the labor productivity. Actually, we can have a different plan. So certain jobs actually you need all the generations, not they need to give that particular feeling. When I talk about generations, there are millennials, and then you have X generations. Now in next 2 to 3 years there'll be different generation would drive the organization, I would say, right? So the millennials would run the organization in next few years, who born in the 1980s. So it is a possibility. It is a possibility that will happen in Sri Lanka, and intensify the businesses, and then giving internship opportunities. Those would really work.
So this also could be achieved by actually investing in technology training and also more infrastructure to make these work processes more efficient and rather more effective, right?
Yeah.
So to conclude, thank you, Lavindu, for your insights and the experiences. We have definitely learned that the factors affecting the graduate employability in Sri Lanka include the education system and the curriculum, economic and social factors, and skill sets and training opportunities. So the challenges, to conclude again, faced by the graduates include the lack of job opportunities, mismatch of skills and job requirements, competition, importantly, and inadequate career guidance and counseling. However, now we already mentioned some solutions to improve graduate employability, include some reforms in the education system, industry-academia collaboration, enhancement of skill sets, and vocational training and entrepreneurship opportunities. All right, Lavindu, thank you for joining us tonight. And also thank you everyone who joined today for our AdvoChats this evening. We're ending this now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tirani. Thank you, Advocate, for having me. Good night.
Good night.